This podcast is sponsored by Barrage Coffee. I encourage everyone to go to barragecoffee.com. It's a veteran-owned company, and I'm waiting to get some in myself. My buddy Kyle Early, he wanted to sponsor me, and he's sending me some, so I'm excited to announce that that's my sponsor, and I'm ready to get this podcast kicked off with a NASCAR pit crew member.
Mr. Steele, what's up?
What's going on, brother? How are you?
I'd like some of that coffee right now.
Yeah, no joke.
Too? It's Saturday morning, and my eyes are a little heavy.
Oh, I'm sure, man. So you're retired pit crew member. You spent 19 years in, correct?
That's correct. 19 years. Everybody tried to get me to do 20. I said it's just a number. I'm happy at 19.
So you own your own business. You're a father. You're a husband, and you're a great guy, man. I remember seeing you on pit road all the time. Had some chats with you. Never got to pit with you, but you're well known in the sport as a great guy, and I'm honored to have you on the show, man.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Alan. I appreciate it, man. I tried to do it right, and tried to always enjoy being at the track and the guys and the camaraderie, whether you're on my team or not. Definitely, you look back and, a few times you make mistakes and you do things that you wish you could take back. But, overall, I really enjoyed it. And even to this day, I miss the guys. That's what you miss the most. And, not to compare us to NFL or NBA, but, I see why guys like Brett Favre or whoever, they retire and unretire. I think they not only miss the competitive nature of it on Sunday, but they miss the locker room aspect and that team camaraderie that, you just don't get in the outside world.
Oh, I agree 100%. I went to my first race a couple weeks ago, the 600. I ain't gonna lie, that's a long race to go to. As you know, and I'm not gonna lie, man, there's so many times I want to be down there with a fire suit on, but I was like, man, I'm sure you miss it too.
Well, and I went 2016 was my last year, and in 17 went to the All-Star race, and then went to the Southern, or what is the Darlington, the Southern 500, I guess is what it's called. I don't even know anymore, but
I think they renamed it that again.
And so I was there with my dad, and man, I just didn't feel right. I didn't have a team to go to. I didn't have a fire suit, and all the guys are kind of saying hey to you, but at the same time they're doing their job, and I haven't been back since. And it's just because I felt out of place. And it's sad that it's that way, but when you've done it and you're a creature of habit, and just being at the track, you feel like, all right, I got to go haul tires, or I got to do something, and just standing around there with, water in your hand and not having a truck to go to felt kind of weird. So haven't been back to the track since 17 at all.
Wow, man, that's crazy. So did you grow up in the Mooresville area or North Carolina? Or?
Yeah, just north of Mooresville, Statesville. So I'm a unicorn. I'm one of the few guys that's from this area and lived in the area for 50 years. Grew up in Statesville and went to school at UNC Charlotte, and reside in Concord, and now I've got an office back in Mooresville, which is kind of between Concord and Statesville. So love the area. My family's here. My wife's family's here. Obviously got into the NASCAR industry. It's the home of that. So, I've traveled the country through NASCAR, and really not many other places I'd rather be than North Carolina myself.
I agree. I love it here, man. So you grew up racing, right?
I did. Yeah. So I was, deep down, I was more of a stick and ball guy. I mean, I love basketball and football and golf, and I liked baseball until I was 10 years old and got hit in the face with a ball and gave baseball up pretty quick. So, I was more of a stick and ball guy. My dad, he's more of a gearhead, and he loved racing. He grew up in the 60s with old cars and, going to races, Fireball Roberts and all those guys. So, I wanted to go to the track with my dad and hang out with him. So we started going to races, and then he bought go-karts, and we raced go-karts and got a little late model stock, and but I wasn't willing to spend the time working on cars and doing that kind of stuff. I wanted to be out in the neighborhood playing kickball or soccer or baseball or basketball or whatever it was. So we got out of it as far as the racing aspect goes, just because my dad was tired of working on the cars and go-karts by himself all the time. But I did love driving. That was fun and the competitive aspect, but I didn't want to work on cars every night coming home from school. So, it wasn't my thing. But we ended up going to school at UNC Charlotte. My dad, he was an architect, but he got in with Steve Mill at Roush Racing, and Steve was like, "Hey, I know you come to a lot of races. Why don't you, come and do pit support?" So my dad kind of got into the sport that way, and then I started going, and next thing you know, I'm in college at UNC Charlotte, and I would go to a couple races with him still, and got to, know some crew chiefs and this and that. And I guess it was 97, went to the Roush Christmas party with my parents, and a guy named Skip Eiler was the crew chief for Chad Little. And we were sitting there, and he's like, "Hey, you want to do what your dad does and come do, pit support for us next year, set up the pits, I'll pay you $100 a week, and, you get to fly to all the races." I was like, "Yeah, sounds good, man. I'm in college and I'll do it." And, so I started doing it, and then I guess it was like May of 98. I was getting ready to take a couple summer classes, but Jeff Hammond had become the crew chief, and Jeff was like, "Hey, why don't you come in and set up pit practice for the guys and do this and that?" And so I was like, "Yeah, I'll do that." So I started doing that kind of part-time while I was in school. And 2 months later, I'm about to shit in my pants as we're at the Pocono second race, and Hammond has me carrying front tires for the first time in a live cup race. Like, there was no ARCA, no, I didn't get to do ARCA. I didn't get to do the Busch series at the time. I didn't get to do the truck. I mean, it was my first time live action, besides out back of the parking lot, was actually at Pocono. And I was scared out of my mind. Never forget it.
Oh, I'm sure. Had you ever practiced pit stop at all?
I had been practicing with them, and we had a really athletic team for back in that day. I mean, we were obviously doing high 14, low 15 second pit stops, but for that time, that was pretty solid. We didn't have the same equipment that the guys have now. I mean, the old, we didn't have bullet style caps or anything like that. They basically just used the old practice caps. So, just trying to index it. And, your first job was just to get it up on the hub. And then at that point, turn it one direction. So, but I mean, Jeff Fabian was my tire changer. And I mean, he's a heck of an athlete. And Scott Wood was our jack man. And Chris Webb, he was I think he was our gas man at the time, but then Chris ended up jacking. And, a lot of those guys that played college football, and, they were mechanics at the time, and, mainly and road crew guys, but, they were heck of athletes at the time. I know the sport kind of started transitioning, but many of those guys had long careers even after the D1 athletes started coming in 5 and 6 years later. So I was very, very blessed to be surrounded by, not only good athletes, but, good guys and guys that were willing to let me be a part of that team. So very thankful and still, appreciative of those old guys.
Oh, I agree, man.
Now I'm the old guy.
Yeah, we're all getting there, man. It's crazy. You come into the sport as a young guy, and then next thing you know, you're on your way out from these young bucks coming in from all the stick and ball sports, and that's what's crazy. So who was your childhood hero? Was it a race car driver? Is that what?
Man, I mean, Michael Jordan, basketball. I mean, I love the sport of basketball. He would have to be my idol, I guess. But when it came to racing, going to the track when I was 6 or 7 years old with my dad, Richard Petty was my first hero. And I remember he took me to I think it was the 1983 North Wilkesboro race, because that was only like 40 minutes from the house. And he took me up there, and we got in, and actually I got to meet Richard Petty at my very first racetrack. And I'd need to see if Dad's got pictures of that, but it was, I remember, just getting to meet Richard Petty was the coolest thing. I thought that was awesome, and got to meet a couple other people that day. I think I got to meet Earnhardt, and my dad was a big Bill Elliott fan. I got to meet Bill, and so that was, from a racing standpoint, man, all those guys. And as I got into the sport, I'll never forget in '98, like just the way Dale Earnhardt and even Tony Stewart and those guys, they come across to the general public sometimes as a little bit aloof and this and that. But, those guys, you're one of them when you have that crew shirt on. I mean, they would pick and joke with you and walk by and, give you a little kidney shot and not even say a word to you, but you just knew you were in with them, which was really cool. So, got a lot of respect for Earnhardt and Smoke and those guys.
Yeah, I got a funny story about Smoke. He kicked me in my junk in Dover during the national anthem. Oh man, from behind.
You say that one time. I mean, like I said, I never ever had a real conversation with Smoke, but I remember when he was picking with me, walked by and said something, and like, man, it wasn't like a year or two later, and I was getting a little heavy around the waist area. I was, probably not doing what I should have been doing in the weight room and stuff. And Smoke walked by me at the track and go, I see you getting a little Tony Stewart starter kit there on you, and he poked me in the belly.
Yeah, Smoke.
Tony Stewart starter kit. I hear you.
Yeah, he's a good guy, man. I'll never forget that day as long as I live. And it ended up being my best race, so I wanted to go back to him every time and be like, dude, kick me in my junk so I can have another good race. But after the '97 season, did you stay? How long did you stay at Roush?
So, I pitted the 97 car for 2 years, and then I moved over to the 16 with LePage for a year, and then Frankie Stoddard brought me over to the 99 car with Burton and those guys. So I was on the 99. I mean, man, that was an awesome pit crew. Had Hollywood on the front, Mark Armstrong and Mike Brill, and Chuck White was our jack man, and Todd Foster was my changer. Man, we had that 2000, I guess it was been 2001. That crew was awesome. Unfortunately, at the end of that season, I think Chuck went to Gibbs, and we kind of all split up. In the next couple of years, we were just kind of, we were a good pit crew, but we just didn't have that same chemistry that we had in 2001. But it was a lot of fun. Enjoyed those guys. So I was there from, I guess, at Roush from 98 to 04. And that's when Burton left to go to RCR, and they brought Carl Edwards in, and man, you could tell that kid was a shoe. But the 99 didn't have a sponsor going into next year, the following season. And I remember going to Jeff Smith, who was the team president, because I was working in the marketing department. And I was like, Jeff, I got another opportunity. And, I'm afraid without sponsoring. I mean, Jeff, I respect it. He told me point blank, he goes, look, we're going to run the 99 car as long as we can without a sponsor. He said, but 10 races in next year, there's no sponsor and we're not running good. He's like, we could shut the 99 car down. And so I was like, man, I'm moving on. So I went over to Ganassi. Chip had just partnered with Felix, and I knew one of the guys over there, and Andy Graves, and I thought, this is going to be the right opportunity. Texaco Haviland, Jamie McMurray, all that kind of stuff. So, I made the move to Ganassi and just tried to shore up my long-term security there. And, of course, 4 races in, the 99 cars having one of the best finishes of all time, in an unsponsored car, winning the race with Carl Edwards. And you're just sitting there going like, man, that could have been me. But, everything happens for a reason. And, everything turned out the way it was supposed to be.
So let me backtrack just a second. 2001, obviously, we know what happened that day with Dale. So you were there.
Mm-hmm.
When did you actually find out that actually happened? When you got back to Statesville, or did everybody pretty much know? Because I wasn't in the sport then.
Yeah, man, it gives me chill bumps in here thinking of it. Pitted the car that day, and I remember tearing down the pits. As we do after the race. And I'll never forget Dale Jr. comes sprinting by, like, dude looks like Usain Bolt running by me. Not to laugh about it, but yeah, man, never seen Dale Earnhardt Jr. running like he was. And I was just, I remember back in my head thinking, man, something that doesn't seem right, like, okay, but maybe he's just going to check on his dad, and hopefully it's nothing too serious. And man, we get back to the truck and we're loading the truck up, and Burton had finished second or third in points the year before, and I think Dale was second or third, I don't know, but we were parked beside of those guys, and their truck was kind of empty, like nobody was really around it, and we're doing our deal, loading the truck back up with toolboxes and everything. And man, right as we're kind of loading those last couple pieces and getting ready to shut the door, I remember Chocolate Myers and some of those guys, man, just sitting there crying, man. Grown men. And I don't know, man, just hit you. And you knew something was wrong, and ended up going back over to the airport, and get there, and word just starts spreading on the plane that Dale had died. So
yeah, man.
Anyway, dang, man, you brought up some stuff in me, man.
it's touching, man. He was our icon, you know what I mean? I hate to say it, but and then he was the face of our sport, big time, and when you lose that guy, you lose a lot.
Yeah, like I said, man, it's just 20 years ago, something you don't talk about a lot, but man, when you start talking about it, it's like therapy session, I guess.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I'll never forget that day, that's for sure.
So you leave Roush, you go to where'd you go again? I got wrapped up in that.
No, yeah, I went to Ganassi Racing. Went over to Chip and Felix's place and was on the 42 car all 9 years, 05 to 13. I think McMurray was in the car my first year. Then he left to go to Roush. And then Casey Mears was in the car 06, and I think he left to go to Hendrick. And then we got JPM Montoya. And I had a lot of fun with JP from, I guess, 07 to 13. And
so you were on the car when he hit the jet dryer, huh?
I was on the car when he hit the jet dryer. So yeah, that was an interesting night, and something, as crew guys, I mean, we heard all the time. But I think one, obviously it wasn't anything Juan did. I mean, I think it was a sway bar or something had broke. I mean, I remember that too. Obviously it was, I think, a lot of rain delays that night, so the race was going a little bit later. But that caution, Juan, we left pit road. We come in, did a pit stop. We left pit road, and Juan's like, man, did we get everything tight? Like, just something doesn't feel right. And so we just kept coming in under a long caution, probably pitted 3 or 4 times, and kept pulling the left rear off and looking and couldn't find anything. And finally, about that 4th or 5th time, dropped the jack. He goes circling around. He's like, yeah, guys, something. And then next thing you know, I think Tab Boyd was our spotter. And if you know Tab at all, Tab's like, oh, shit. You okay, man? You okay? And I mean, we're like, what's going on? And we look, and I mean, there's that fireball on the, big screen. And, poor Connie, she was sitting there in the pit stall, and her eyes got, huge. And you're just like, what just happened, And, that sway bar just, gave way at the wrong time. Or maybe it was a trailing arm. That's what it was. The left side trailing arm is what it was. And I guess it gave away right at the wrong place, wrong time. And I mean, he just totally, couldn't steer it. And he was, probably running 100 miles an hour catching up to the field. And, a lot of people think, oh, Juan just drove right into the, it's like, oh, no, that's not what happened. Poor guy. So I know, I'm sure he felt terrible about it, and probably scared the crap out of him too. I mean, when you lose control and have no way to steer, and you see a jet dryer, running 5 miles an hour against the wall, that's got to be a scary feeling.
With jet fuel in it.
With jet fuel, yeah. So yeah, that was a scary moment for sure. And unfortunately, that's one of the memories that came from that team.
Yeah, I was pitting Blaney, so we were leading. I was like, oh, we just lucked our way into this Daytona 500 win. Yes. And then Tidewood Bleach come out and fix the track. Imagine that. Yeah. That was a long night, man.
That is right. I remember Blaney was leading, and I remember thinking, and everybody was saying, they're like, oh, they're going to do everything they can to restart this one.
And they did.
unfortunately for you, they did, I guess.
Yeah, Mike Trower was my changer at the time.
Oh, dude, Mike Trower, that guy, man. Have you had him on your show yet?
Oh yeah, he was my first episode, man. Great guy.
He is a great guy, man. You know, that's what's cool coming in the sport in '98. You know, you had those guys. I mean, really the Rainbow Warriors, they were and Evernham, he was the first one to really say, hey, we're going to get guys and we're going to focus on pit stops. Like, we're not just going to, you know, be satisfied with 16 to 19 second pit stops and just let it be. I mean, you know, and no disrespect to the guys before that. I mean, you know, they were great at what they did, but they didn't have the time. I mean, they were busy putting cars together and going to the track and everything else. So there just wasn't that specialization. But Trower, man, what a great guy. If anybody deserves to be in the Hall of Fame, he should be the first pit crew member to get in it.
I totally agree, man. And his last year, you remember when we had that deal at Homestead for him?
Mm-hmm.
Retirement ceremony. We were fighting to try to get him in the Hall of Fame, and I'm still going to do my best to get that dude because what an outstanding guy, you know.
Yeah, just great guy, and you know, gave it all to the sport, and you know, pit crews are here today because of guys like him.
Yep.
So yeah, that's cool, man. Well, whatever I can do to support it, let me know.
Absolutely. So your time in Ganassi, did you get any wins while you were at Ganassi?
Yeah, what did we win? I mean, obviously won Sonoma, won Watkins Glen. I got a couple there. Won a couple Xfinity races at Ganassi, but I was the pit crew coach for a time being there on both the 42 and the 1. So I kind of did both jobs there. You know, I was pitting the 42, but overseeing the pit crews at Ganassi for a couple years. And that was the year that, you know, Jamie won the Brickyard, the Daytona 500, those kind of things. So I count those in my victory tally, even though I wasn't a pit crew guy, but you know, help put those guys together, and glad to see them be successful. But you know, that also was a couple tough years there, because man, Juan was so dominant at those Brickyards, and you know, we had really good pit stops those days, and you know, just very disheartening we didn't win both of those Brickyard 400s, if not one. So those are ones that you still think about to this day, and just like, man, that was our Super Bowl. You know, those were our races where we had a chance to do really well, and you know, just didn't have things fall our way. And you know, it goes to show you how these guys that win 60, 80, 90 races, the Jimmy Johnsons, Jeff Gordons, and I mean, how you got to be in contention week in and week out to put yourself in position to actually win these things, because everything has to go right. So it's amazing.
Yeah, man, it's unbelievable. I was at Hendrick when Jimmy was winning all that stuff, and it was unreal. You know, it seemed like Dover might as well just not even race the race because he's gonna win it. He was dominant there.
I mean, you knew when you got there. I mean, Jimmy Johnson was going to be the man, though. The only thing that could stop him was bad luck.
Yeah, man. So you spent how many years? 9 years at Ganassi?
Yeah, I was there from 05 to 13, and you know, I kind of had a inkling things were changing, and I tried to get out of there in 12, but had a contract for one more year, and you know, I was kind of told that, you know, oh no, you're good, you're you know, going to be taken care of and nothing to worry about. And it's like, okay, well, I got another opportunity. I like to be politically correct here and leave on my own terms. And they're like, nope, you're good. And sure enough, about 8-9 months later, hey, we're making some changes and you're not a part of the plan. So not that I'm bitter about it, but man, everything, all serious, laugh about it now. Like, it happens for a reason, because that's kind of kicked me in the butt. Say, hey, where I'm at, I'm 36 years old. I don't want to be the old guy that's just chasing around the track and doing all this and that. And, I never, like I said from the beginning, I was never a big gearhead. So it's like, man, do I want to stay in marketing in the sport? Do I want to try to work my way into like some sort of team management position? But, I was just like, man, my kids are getting older. I don't want to travel like this forever. So it kind of kicked me in the butt to go get my insurance license. And my cousin had been in the insurance business for years, and him and I kind of talked half-ass about it for a few years about maybe doing that. And so I was like, yeah, let's do this. Let's try this. So I got my insurance license and knew a guy at Farm Bureau. He happened to reach out to me, Sean O'Brien, and it's like, hey, we got a position. Do you want to give it a shot? And so I did. And the very next year, going into 14, I kind of started what I would call my transition in my career. So I was pitting race cars on the weekend. I signed up. Mitch Lash got me over at BK Racing with Cole Witt. And, was just pitting that car and selling insurance for Farm Bureau and being out and about outside of those walls from the race shop, man, you start meeting people. And I came across this guy, Gary Hancock, and, we got talking one day. He thought I was actually Marty Smith. He had just run into Marty. And I had
look
kind
like
of
him.
the faux hawk going, and we got talking. I was like, dude, why'd you stop me? Do I know you? And he goes, I thought you were Marty Smith. I was like, no, but I know Marty and I work in NASCAR. Said I actually transitioned out the insurance, kind of help you out sometime. And Gary laughed at me. He goes, man, he said, I know you Farm Bureau guys. Y'all can't write everything. He said, I'm an independent over in Mooresville. He said, here's my card. You send me stuff when you can't write it. I was like, whatever. Sure enough, about 2 weeks later, I got something I couldn't write at Farm Bureau. I send it over to him. I start sending more and more stuff. And, next thing you know, him and I kind of become a little bit of friends. And Gary he was in his, mid to late 60s, didn't have a succession plan to his agency. And in January of 15, he goes, hey, do you want to buy my agency? And I was like, what? Well, you know what? I'm in the business of I'm at that point in my life where I'm taking a bunch of risk. I mean, all I've ever known is NASCAR. I was like, let's look at it. So, dove into that and I was like, you know what? Farm Bureau is a great company. I like it here, but, I'm going to be an agent working for someone in Raleigh all the time, telling me what my production has to be and what this and that. And I was like, this is a good agency. It's an independent. It's already got a good book of business. I'm contracted with a bunch of companies. I was like, let's do it, man. I'm still pitting race cars to kind of subsidize my income and take this risk right now. And so I did it. And, 2 years later, I bought it in 15. By the end of 16, I was able to completely get out of NASCAR and, and just rolling in the insurance business. I got my weekends free with my wife and kids. And, as much as I do miss NASCAR, I love having my weekends now. I mean, it's you can't get this time back.
Dude, that's what I tell everybody. I didn't have a weekend for 14 years. I mean, you really don't. And a lot of times, a lot of us guys do the trucks, Xfinity, and Cup.
Yeah.
And it takes a damn toll on you, man. It really does. And what's funny go ahead.
No, I was just saying, I was lucky. I didn't do a lot of double duty. I mean, I did some Xfinity, but when I was in 2014 making this transition, I wanted to make as much money as I could. So, man, I was doing double duty in 2014 and 15. And, here I went from kind of Sunday only guy working Monday through Thursday. I had Friday and Saturday off. I had it made at Ganassi. And now here I am. I'm 37 years old. I'm working 5 days a week for Farm Bureau and then going to the weekend Saturday. My wife was great because, she got it. We talked about it. And, the big picture was like, yeah, this is going to suck for a year or two, working 7 days a week. But, at the same time, this is what we got to do right now. And we did it. And, here we are 6 years later. And it's great because, owning your own business is all right. You are in charge of your own time and freedom. I got 2 great employees that, can handle the office if I need to be out. But, if it's 3:00 in the afternoon and a kid needs to be picked up and my wife's busy doing her job, I just leave and go get them, So, that 2 years of sucking, working 7 days a week is now paid off to where I have the freedom and flexibility to do what I want to do and what I need to do and still be, financially secure. So, man, just everything happens for a reason. So like I said, kind of at the time was really upset that, how things ended for me at Ganassi after 9 years of loyalty. But, at the same time, it turned out the way it was supposed to for me.
Yeah, I agree, man. So, I want to hit on something because a lot of people that have never been around racing, they always ask me, how do you guys fly? And I always tell them private. We don't fly commercial. You hardly ever fly commercial. Did you ever fly on any Saabs or King Airs?
I did early on. Yeah, I did little 8-9 passenger planes back with Roush early on, and then Roush got the big plane. So once that happened, then we were always on the 747, I guess it was. And then at Ganassi, my first 2 years, we had a 1900, so it was a 19 passenger plane, and then what they called a 328 prop plane. I mean, I don't know my planes, but it was like a 31 passenger, so we could travel 50 total guys. And that that 1900, they used to joke when I got there, and some of the guys that had been Ganassi, they called it the lawn dart, which is not something to joke about, but after you fly on it a couple of times, you realize why, because that thing did not feel secure, especially coming through some of those storms that we would fly through.
Oh my gosh, I know, man. They'd be like, why don't you just go higher or something? Get out of this thing.
Man, I tell you, I got to the point where I was, numb to flying, and it was part of the job, but, not having to do that every weekend, man, I'm thankful for that as well. Cause I just, I pray for all those guys' safety and things like that. I mean, in all sports, I mean, you think about it. I mean, it's just stuff you shouldn't even talk about, but it's not fun to travel around all the time. And, I remember my scariest feeling was the Watkins Glen one time, beautiful summer, August, but, sitting right there in the mountains, they had that low hanging fog, and we were flying on a 328, and they hadn't turned off their alarm system thing from the cockpit. And so it was blasting all through. And 3 times they tried to land, and all of a sudden we'd be going down and you couldn't see anything. And they would be like, the plane would start yelling, terrain, terrain. And we'd pull up, and I was like, oh my goodness, please just set this thing on the ground somewhere.
Yeah, I had a scary flight coming back from Daytona to Statesville, and the DEI plane, it was low. I want to say it was that night that Montoya hit the jet dryer. We were like,
yep, I was on that plane. Is that when we went to Hickory, or?
Yes.
Yeah, I was on that flight with you. Yep.
That was pretty scary, man. I was like, oh man, here we go.
Yeah. So, man, yeah, I don't miss those days. But I'll tell you this: a couple times now that I have to go and fly commercial, I'm like, man, I miss those private planes.
Yeah, for sure, man. Man, and he's not driving, so don't think he's driving.
No.
And I know you got to get to your little girl's game and stuff. I think they're practicing, right?
Yeah,
right now.
So my daughter, she'll be a sophomore in high school, so they got what they call, I guess, a soccer college ID camp. So she's at a little college here in North Carolina, and a couple local colleges. Coaches are out there. They split them up in teams. So they were just warming up this morning. I think they're doing some scrimmaging this afternoon. So not missing a lot. Just sitting here in the parking lot, hanging with my boy Alan Steele.
Yeah, man. So I can't remember. Was you on that Swan deal too?
Yeah. So that's that 2013. I couldn't even think of the name, but yeah, I was on Swan deal, and then Swan ended up merging into BK. So about 8 races in, and we stayed on that deal. So yeah, I guess I was with Swan for 8 races, and then BK for about 27 or 28 races. And
I got thrown on that deal with y'all. The other car.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, that was damn, that was weird. That was a weird year.
Yeah, 2014 was a weird year for me, for sure. I was like, man, what am I doing? This is not what I pictured, 5 years ago.
Yeah. I mean, it was easy. Yeah, I probably shouldn't say it, but it was an easy paycheck, but
no, it was easy. It was fun. I mean, it was, it actually, it made racing a little bit fun for me that year, because we just, we were going to run 35th to, 27th to 35th, and, pit stops didn't matter a ton. And, I was pitting Xfinity car and hanging out with, Mitch and Brody and, those guys, and Jay Gay. I mean, we had a good time, and that was a fun year. And it kind of took you back to, when you first got into racing and how much fun it could be.
Yeah, I gotta
because it does become a job. You know, I mean, when you're certain places, unfortunately, it is a business, and you know, a lot of politics get involved, and kind of takes a lot of fun out of it that, you know, I didn't realize had happened until I got to 2014, and we just went to the track to pit cars and earn a paycheck and have a good time. So that was fun.
Yeah, I also got to give a shout out. I keep forgetting every time. My buddy Marty up in New York, he watches every podcast, loves them, loves the pit crew guys, big fan. So Marty up in New York, man, I got to give you a shout out.
What up, Marty?
Yeah, no, he's a great guy, man.
Paychecks.
Yeah, but yeah, man, I've enjoyed having you on. I know you got stuff you got to do. Thank you for taking your time out of your day to come on my show, and a lot of it's. I get a lot of guys on, and it's basically for veterans, man, that get crawled down in a hole and they feel depressed. They got PTSD, all this stuff. And I just like them to hear, you know, because I was a pit crew member, I was a military guy, and, you know, I didn't fall in them holes. And to hear guys' success stories and how they, you know, how to go, you know, like you started your own business, you know, and they hear this and then, you know, get some motivation to do something better with their life, you know, that, hey, you can do anything you put your mind to, and you really can. You know, this being a pit crew member was my dream since I was a kid, you know, and I left the military in a damn 17-foot box truck and pulling my car, and didn't know what I was getting into, man. And I made it, you know, and it was good, you know. So these guys can do it too. I'm not saying everybody wants to be a pit crew member, but I don't know. Well, nowadays in the pit crew industry, it's totally different, you know. But there's other things out there, you know. There's other things out there for you. Just got to,
man, Alan, and thank you for your service and everybody that's listening. You know, I think that, you know, one thing I was in Hilton Head a couple weeks ago and got paired up with a dad and his two sons that are in college, and you know, one thing I stress to those two young men, and I would stress to anyone that's, you know, struggling or, you know, whatever, just, you know, don't be afraid to, you know, recreate yourself and take some risk and things like that. Because, you know, we do live in a crazy world, and things appear like everybody's crazy and everybody's out to get you and this and that. But, you know, I think as a society as a whole, people are there to help you. You know, they're pulling for you. So, you know, don't be afraid to reach out for help. I mean, you know, same thing, you know, when I was, you know, transitioning, scared to death, but, you know, I had a great support system. You know, my parents, my wife's parents, my wife, my kids, you know, people in racing. I mean, there's a lot of guys that, you know, said, hey, Chip, here's my insurance stuff. Take a look at it. I don't even care if you're more expensive than where I'm at. I just want to help you.
yeah.
And so, you know, I would just, you know, stress to anybody out there going through anything to just, you know, look around and find your support system, and don't be afraid to ask for some help, because people want to help you.
I agree, man. And that's why I started this, man, to even if, you know, it's not personally like physically helping them, but mentally, you know, just hearing somebody's success story. Like, man, I can do that. You know what I mean? It might not be the same path, but be something else, you know, something positive in their life. So,
yeah, well, I'll tell you, you know, I mean, I had to do that too. I mean, you know, I told you earlier, missing the locker room deal. You know, I was like, you know, I love my wife and I love my two daughters, but, you know, and then I got two employees at work. I was surrounded by female, you know, as soon as racing was done. I mean, all aspects of my life was, you know, these lovely women in my life, but, you know, I needed some guy time, and something I was used to for 20 years. And, you know, I found a group of guys that, you know, I started playing basketball with over in Mooresville. And, you know, basketball was a deep passion of mine for a number of years. And, you know, I didn't do it while I was pitting cars, because I didn't want to turn an ankle or do anything to jeopardize me going over the wall or my paycheck. So, man, I started playing basketball with these guys, and, you know, now I play 2 or 3 times a week, like, you know, sometimes lunchtime, sometimes early in the morning. And, you know, to me, that's my guy time. That's my locker room. And, you know, I got back into playing golf with some guys. And so I do a little bit of golf. So, you know, you got to find what makes you happy. I mean, obviously work's important, your family's important, but you got to carve out some time for yourself to to find that mental happiness. And mine is through having that locker room environment and that guy time. I don't want to go sit at bars and, drink and, get in that kind of situation where it's going to be something that's going to be detrimental to me and my family. But what I want to do is something like playing basketball and golf, where I'm outdoors, I'm clearing my head, I'm doing things that are healthy for me, and that makes me a better, hopefully at the end of the day, a better boss and a better father and a better husband, because I come home and I'm not so stressed out by doing those kind of things. So not saying everybody at 40 years old needs to go back and try to play baseball or basketball or things like that, but find a hobby, find a passion, find something that you enjoy doing for yourself, and try to make sure that you're doing that so everything else that life throws at you doesn't feel like work and crap and depress the crap out of you, because it can happen. I mean, we all go through it, no matter how we appear on the surface. We all have deep wounds, and shit that happens in life.
Yeah. I forgot to mention you were at JTG too. Didn't you win a race at the
And they won in 14. But yeah, 15 and 16, I was at JTG and did not get a win with them. We were close a couple times. My boy Almendinger, he still gives me crap at Sonoma. We struggled getting a right rear on one time, and he still likes to blame me for costing him that win. But it's all good. He's one of the few drivers that I had a relationship with, and him and I still play golf every once in a while together, try to get out there and play with him, and really, really happy for him. He's same position in his career, man. He kind of been rejuvenated with colic racing, and just he looks like the AJ that I saw back in 03, 04 when he was kicking ass in the IndyCar Light Series or whatever that thing was called, when he was winning 10, 12 times a year. So really happy for him, and glad to see someone like that having success.
Yeah, I almost forgot about that, man, because my last year I was at JTG, and that was a good place to work.
Yeah, JTG's an awesome place, and Jody and Tad, they got a great little organization. But it's tough being a small team in a big sport.
It is.
That's
it
for
is.
sure. But
yeah, Tad actually held my little boy, man. He's such a great guy. They wanted to keep me on, but I was like, I told them, if I'm not competing, I can't be around it. You know what I mean? I didn't want to work in the shop for 20 more years, and just didn't want to do it, man.
Gary Smith, he was pit crew coach in 16. Yeah. And I'd already kind of told him, I was like, man, this is it for me. I mean, I knew it kind of at the Daytona 500 that year. I mean, when I landed, I got to the track and told Michael Klein, he was our jack man. I was like, Mike, man, if you got somebody younger that wants to do it, he's like, nah, man, this is my last year too. We're finishing out together. And I was like, yeah, I'm not a quitter, so I'm committed. I said, I just want you to know where my heart's at. And, Gary Smith came to me towards the end of the year. He's like, man, we're adding a third team. Any way I can talk you into it? I said, Gary, the only thing you can do right now, you can double my pay, and I have to come to pit practice none. Like no pit practice at all. Chip, I can't do that. And I said, well, Gary, I can't do that either then, because I'm just not coming to pit practice 2 and 3 times a week. I was like, you got too many young guys that want to do it, and my heart's not in it anymore, man. I want to be at home.
Yeah, and JTG is not a short distance from Mooresville by no means.
No, and I was living in Concord, going to Harrisburg, going to Mooresville. I mean, so man, I was spending $150 a week just in gas money to get back and forth. It's like, what am I doing this for?
I know, man. It was, but I had a great time there, man. They were wanting me to drive the motorhome, and I remember saying that, and I couldn't wait to get home by the plane. And now I'm going to be the first one there and the last one to leave. I can't do it. There's no way.
No, everybody has their role, but Alan, I don't see that being your role.
No, definitely not my role. No. I would have been miserable. I'd have been over there on pit road trying to put on the fire suit again. But yeah, Chip, man, I know you got stuff to do. I can't thank you enough for coming on. You've always been a great man in the sport. Always had a smile on your face and never heard any ruffled feathers. And
maybe a couple, but I tried to avoid that.
Yeah, I remember that one deal, but we're not gonna bring that up. and it's beside the point. You're a great guy, man. You always,
Oh,
you know,
him and I are
always
good,
great
too.
to me. I ruffle some feathers myself, more than I can unruffle, I guess.
Hey,
But
man, you put a bunch of alpha males together, it's gonna happen.
exactly. So, but I appreciate your time, and man, I can't thank you enough for coming on. You had a great story, and that's why I want to put it out there, man. And I'm trying to get more guys like yourself on. Hopefully, I can get with some of the marketing people at different race teams, let them get on and tell their story, because it's everybody's story. You know what I mean?
Yeah, man. Well, I love you, bro, and appreciate what you're doing.
Appreciate it, brother. And I'll get you one of these mugs made and have it sent your way. Well, I'll be down in Mooresville a couple times. My daughter's still out there, so I'll get one to you, brother.
All right, man. Yeah, hit me up, man. Next time you're in Mooresville, we'll go grab some breakfast or lunch or whatever.
Absolutely. Sounds good, brother. And thanks again, man.
All right, man. Peace out.
Yes, sir.